Hello, hello. Good afternoon, whiskey friends. Not something I normally get to say, but we are on a pretty early time for my channel here on a Friday, and hoping to get to connect with some folks who, unfortunately, for time zone reasons and whatnot, are overseas and cannot join on the regular Tuesday show. So I thought I'd come on a little bit early. I'm kicking off my birthday weekend. So cheers. I got a nice beer in hand. And looking to hang out. I got a special little bottle of bourbon I picked up, which I'm going to sip on and tell you guys about for a little bit this afternoon. And let's get into it. I already see we got 2 people in, which is awesome, man. What's up? Happy Friday, y'all. I do enjoy these Friday streams. I've been thinking a lot about the format as I'm heading into 2023. And you can imagine that is right around the corner. I've been thinking about like the format of the show and stuff. And so more to share on that soon, but hoping to catch some of our friends overseas today. We got a couple folks in already, which is great, man. What's up? Happy Friday, y'all. I am sipping a Oktoberfest beer. This is from a brewery here in Chicago, one of my favorites, called Phase 3. And I got a bottle of bourbon here, which you guys probably read about in the description that we're going to sip on. So what's up, y'all? Happy Friday. Gerbic's here. Jupiter, Florida. Well, cheers. And oh, man, that's very cool of you. Thank you. Hey, what's up, Alberta? Canada's in the house. How you doing, Ben Demon Hunter? It's been a minute, man. What's good? How are you? Nice to see your face. Mr. White's here up in Ontario. What's up? Hey, there we go. I'm here. Great to see you, man. How are things in India, buddy? It has been a while. I know you got that new job. I hope it's working out well. And yeah, I know it's not always common that I can get on at an earlier time, but today it worked out. So hoping you're ready for the weekend as well, buddy. Cheers. No worries, man. We'll be on for a little bit, and it's just nice to see your face, buddy. Well, your avatar face, that is. Good to see you, Ben. All good. All good. Cheers, man. Good to see you guys. Yeah, no, I know. I've actually been thinking a little bit about the weekly Tuesday show, and I'm not going to get rid of it entirely, but I'm considering just doing the Tuesday shows twice a month, maybe the first and third Tuesday every month, and then leaving the other weeks open so I can kind of do more impromptu live shows. I don't know. We'll see. The weekly show is it's been going for a while. I think almost 2 years, which is just crazy. But you know, it is a lot of work, and it's a little bit taxing. And sometimes I would rather just do an impromptu live, but I hold back because I'm like, oh shoot, I want to save this bottle or save my energy and my time allocated to the whiskey channel to the Tuesdays. So considering giving myself a little more flexibility about it. We will see. I won't be live this Tuesday, but for the remainder of the year, it should be up until the holidays. And then there's all that stuff. But yeah, thinking about what to do in 2023 and maybe going to halftime on Tuesdays, giving it a little bit more breadth, to a little more flexibility to have live shows, you know, on a Friday, on a Saturday, whenever. So we'll see how that goes. Good to see you, Ben. Am I here? What have you been sipping on these days, brother? You gotten yourself anything new? Folks saying hi to Ben. Good to see you, Mr. White. I just uncorked and poured something myself. Birthday's on Sunday. So I thought, oh, I went over to Binny's to check out the beer selection and came across this. It is a Binny's, just a local liquor store chain in Chicago. If you don't know, it is a private barrel select single barrel of Angel's Envy bourbon. Angel's Envy bourbon is a bourbon that is finished in port wine casks, and I had it so many years ago before I was even doing the channel. It was when I first experienced this, and I thought it was fine, but for whatever reason today, I was like, you know what? Let's check out this. I was in the mood for just a new bourbon. I got a couple bourbons I haven't opened, but sometimes you just want to grab a new bottle. And this one was about $90 USD, kind of pricey, but it's at 55% ABV, so it's near a barrel-proof cask strength. All that jazz. And they were one of the four earlier folks that were doing the finishes and things like that on bourbons. I've come around a little bit on that. It's still not, bourbon's not my go-to, as you guys know, and it has been a long time since I bought a bottle. The last bottle of bourbon I bought must have been probably at least 4 months ago, not longer. Well, other than the Barrel Vantage, which I guess qualifies. I did get that, but I grabbed I found an old Woodford Reserve. I think that was the only thing that I got, like an old barrel-proof Woodford Reserve from like 2019. So I buy less and less bourbon, but this is not normally something I would buy. I probably have walked past this 2 or 3 times, but whatever. For whatever reason today, I was just like, you know what, we're gonna do it. I mean, look at the color on that bad boy, eh? Their corny bottle. I got it sitting in the glass. We're going to test it in just a second here. Would be interested in an AE pick to the crappy 86 proof that they sell from more than, yeah. Well, I think that the big thing is what we're going to find with this is that it's still too pricey. I mean, this is a $90 bottle here in Chicago. Maybe it's a little bit cheaper in other places. I don't know. You're paying for the brand, right? I mean, we all know that there are definitely better bourbons you can get for that high of a price. There's not even an age statement on it, but it is a single barrel. It is 55%, and I just was compelled to do it. Let's just check it out. So I got some in the glass. Let's check it out. I've been drinking this delicious Oktoberfest from Phase 3, Chicagoland Brewery. Really good stuff. But it doesn't overwhelm the palate in a way that like a IPA would or something. So I think we're in good shape. This is the color of this beautiful thing. Look at that. You ever seen an Angel's Envy look like that? Now it doesn't say it's cask strength, but this particular single barrel is 55%. Yeah, and like I said, Binny's pick, $90 USD. Definitely overpaid for. I guarantee. Before I even dive into it, I can tell you that. But that is a nice nose. I can tell you immediately this would stand up well in an old fashioned. You wouldn't even need to put cherries on it. Loch Ness is in the house. What up, Loch Ness? Slaunch, buddy. My hair. Yeah, things are going really well. Real estate is working out for me, luckily. I've been sipping on some Ardbeg Wee Beastie in the past few days. There you go. It's a serious dram. Temperature's getting cooler your way. Or getting warmer, right? You guys are you're in springtime, heading into summer, all things considered. Brother gave me a little Mortlock 16, which is a pleasant surprise. Very nicely sweet Oloroso Sherry, 43.4. Excellent to share with anyone new or veteran. Yeah, I always get a real savory quality from them. Mortlock is a distillery that I've not gotten enough into. The ones I have been very meaty, savory. I've seen some independent bottlings I really want to try. I wasn't super impressed with the 12, but it's cool to hear that about the 16. Yeah, Mortlock is just one of those distilleries that I don't have any strong opinions on because I've just not had enough. But that's what I recall of like the 2 or 3 that I think I've tasted. Anyways, this is the beautiful color of this. Look at that. Now, is this going to be overwhelmingly port? So Angel's Envy, of course, is a bourbon. It is a straight bourbon. So it's at least 2 years old. The regular bottling is 43%. It is finished in port. This one is 55%. And boy, does the color look great. Here we go. The nose on this is wonderful. Rich, much richer than I recall the 43%er being way back in the day. The port is subtle. A little bit of dark red fruit here, but what you're really getting is a just overload of graham cracker, almost like s'mores, graham cracker, a little bit of chocolate note, vanilla, caramel. There's also a nice little cinnamon spice to it. Very traditional bourbon notes, but it smells rounded. It smells like it's had a decent age on it. Very inviting. I'm into it. Let's give it a taste. Happy Friday, y'all. Okay. Now this is what I'm talking about. First of all, when I was at the store today, I just wanted a new bourbon. I wanted a rich bourbon, but something that's gonna have a lot of viscosity. This is definitely delivering on that. Hints of black cherry throughout, but this is a rich, dark cocoa, caramel, vanilla, all that stuff. Blast on the initial palate. As it develops, you start getting cinnamon baking spices. Again, very traditional, but it's all rounded. Nothing too edgy, even at 55% neat. Just a huge flavor on this. Yeah, chocolate covered cherry. The port is subtle, dry finish, a little drier than I maybe would have wanted or expected this to be, but it's long and you get a couple swells. There's a couple swells of flavor, which is always a good sign. Nuttiness, vanilla, custard almost. Again, just that like hint of fruit. It's a medium long finish, a bit drying, but it's not over oaked. It's not a just oaky assault on your tongue. It actually lands on the palate. It's like there's enough happening and kind of rounding this off to make it a really enjoyable experience. This is everything I wanted it to be for a $70 bourbon. I mean, $90 is a lot, and you're plus sales tax in Chicago, it's getting close to $100. You're paying a lot for this, no doubt, and you're paying for the name, but it is well crafted. It's very delicious. There's not a lot of I think this is a low rye mash bill, if I'm not mistaken, because there is not a lot of rye in this that I can pick up. It is a heavy, complex, just really nice, relaxed bourbon. On any other day, I would have passed on this at the price, but you know what? It's birthday weekend. I wanted something, and I bought it. You got to do that every once in a while in life. And I will say that in that mindset, I'm pleasantly surprised. This is great. It's better than I expected almost. I wish it was it's a little bit dry on the back end, but that's just me. That's just my nitpicking. It's just my own flavor palette. But I do like how right when you're thinking, oh, this might be a little too dry. It's a little too much of this dry port note, dry oak note. All of a sudden you get this really nice just swells of flavor from the spirit. And that part always is a pleasant surprise. You like to get that on the finish of a whiskey. Yeah, man. I'm going to smoke a nice cigar tonight. I'm going to enjoy this. I don't know what that cigar is going to be yet, but I'm going to get something. Yeah, this is good. We are going to try this with some water too. Anybody had a barrel pick from Angel's Envy yet? I know barrel picks are kind of dime a dozen here in the U.S. For some of our friends, the majority of which are in here right now, who are not in the U.S. In the United States, liquor stores or distributors, there's a really big I don't know what you want to call it, market or practice of offering barrel picks to different local liquor stores or distributors. So there's two ways it happens. Sometimes it's barrels selected for someone, or it's picked by someone, and the language matters. If it's picked by, that means that in this case, Binny's sent somebody to Angel's Envy. They tried a bunch of barrels. Ooh, I like that one. This is the one we want to put our name on. Other times you'll get things like Total Wine, which is like selected for, barrel pick selected for, which is basically somebody there is like, this is the one we're going to give to Total Wine. Out the door. Usually barrel picks in the U.S., it's bourbon rye. And most of the time it's bourbon rye. And most of the time, I would say they're at the same price as the original regular distillery release. They are a bit of a gamble because you're dealing with something more nuanced. It is somebody's opinion after all, but I would say on par, store picks are usually better than, or barrel picks, I should say, are usually better than the distillery releases. Binny's does pretty good. This one is a privately select. You see, they're real crafty with the language. I don't know that Binny's sent somebody there or not. Binny's is a pretty big liquor chain here in Chicago. I go there on Fridays to pick up their new beers from a couple breweries I love called Hot Butcher for the World and Phase 3. This is the Phase 3 Oktoberfest. This has actually been out for a while. But just absolutely killer beer. And so I don't know that they're actually sending somebody there themselves. There's another liquor store chain here that's much smaller, but I know for a fact that they taste the barrels themselves, called Garfield's. But yeah, this is really nice bourbon. This is a bourbon. It's dangerously sippable at 55%. We're going to put a little bit of water on it just to see. My guess is it's going to get a little drier. And to be honest, I think it's kind of dry enough for my taste. Let's see where it goes. Okay, the nose, you can't really tell. God, what a pleasant nose, though. God, this bourbon really does have a pleasant nose. I'm not going to lie. It's just good. Okay. Those fruit notes are showing up more now, but are playing really well as a secondary note to the dominant casting. There's the dryness. Yeah. It's just a little too dry. Now, this isn't the same for every private select barrel you're ever going to find. They're single barrels for a reason, which means results will vary slightly. The Binny's barrel here, all in all, really good. Just a bit dry. The water is definitely making this drier. This would stand up amazingly in a cocktail. I'm not going to use it for that. It's an expensive bourbon. And there's a lot to explore in this. I'm even getting some herbal notes in it, which is kind of cool. But all in all, yeah, not a $90 bourbon. Normally wouldn't spend anything close to that on a bourbon. There's so much good bourbon at less price here. But, you know, it is what it is. sometimes you gotta roll the dice and buy yourself something that's a bit of a treat. And I'm not upset with this at all. I'm going to definitely enjoy this. This is a very good bourbon. It is overpriced. I would recommend looking for these Angels Envy private selections if you see them around the U.S. If you're not outside the U.S., don't overpay for this. I know it's hard to get good bourbon. I think as Mr. White was saying, sometimes some of these things are just hard to get in Canada even. I wouldn't pay more than, like, if I was putting myself in a scarcity mindset. $125. Don't go more than that. You're just not going to get, like, there's too much. As I've always said, and people might disagree with me with this, the bandwidth, or like the boundaries between like good bourbon, really good bourbon, and crappy bourbon is, like, you're just kind of playing in a smaller field. Scotch, I think there's just the realm of possibilities much larger. So, I think there's a lot more parity with bourbon, and you can find really good bourbon cheap. You can definitely find something like this cheaper than this. I paid for the brand. It is what it is, but I'm not sad at all. I mean, this is a straight up 4 out of 5 bourbon for me. Unfortunately, well, I'd have to go to $375. If this was $70 all day, I just don't know that $90. But if you're outside the US, can't get good bourbon, you see this on a shelf, they charge you a premium, you won't be upset. Let me catch up on the chat here. We got 6 folks in. What's up, y'all? Mostly hot during the day. Oh yes, India. But evenings are cold in Mumbai. That's right. You're in Mumbai now. Yeah. And this time of year. And yes, climate differences push me back to drink more beer. Yeah. Than he did in Delhi. Awesome, man. I'm glad you're doing well, Mahir. It's so when I decided to do this, part of me was thinking about you, and I was hoping maybe Mahir and Kapil and some of our friends over in India who it's just really hard for you guys to jump on the show during the regular Tuesdays. I was hoping maybe you could stop in. So good to see you, man. I would say slacked would be about 140 range here at LCBO. I mean, again, it's so hard for me to put myself in your position. I don't know, like 140 might be a lot. Well, Canadian is less, so that's maybe like 120 USD. That's a lot. I mean, that's a lot for any bourbon, in my opinion. But if you like what I was telling you about the flavor of this, and I can definitely talk more about it, maybe. Hard to say. It's really hard to say. Hey, Rod. Cheers, man. Good to see you. If you guys are beer fans, do take a second and shoot a subscription over to Rod J Beer Ventures. Rod is super cool. He used to be out of Cincinnati. Now I think he's somewhere out near Baltimore, if I'm not mistaken. And does a Thursday beer show. He does good beer reviews. Guy knows his stuff. Check it out. Three and a half years down his whiskey journey has an Angels Envy. Yeah, but you live in Canada, man. These things are not always easy to get. Don't beat yourself up too much. Honestly, I would say it is not a bourbon that you need to seek out. The regular Angels Envy. It's good, but you don't need to seek this out. And I don't think it's going to, if you're 3.5 years in, you've probably had up in Canada, at least a couple dozen bourbons. It's not going to do anything for you that you wouldn't either expect or that you haven't had better somewhere else. That's just what I would say. So not something you need to seek out. 5 years ago, maybe, when they were, maybe I would have said that, but there's nothing it's going to do for you that's going to really blow your mind. You've had better whiskey. So don't pay a premium for it. Now, If you find a cask strength version or one of these higher ABV versions like these private selects, might be worth throwing down some money for. Because you're really, more alcohol means more flavor, and that's just chemistry, I'm told. And that means, and obviously through experience, right? We all know this. So the value will be there, and I think it's just a better buy. So that's what I would tell you. You're not missing much. It's good, but overpriced. I mean, it's like a $55 bottle here for Angel's Envy, and I've seen it for maybe $45, but like, come on. For a bourbon, finished in port, like there's a million of those now. Just my 2 cents. Mr. White did get an Old Forester single barrel Vine Arts pick from Alberta last week. Alberta is full of start picks. The government-controlled provinces get very few every year. I have about 20 from Alberta. Oh, yeah. Old Forester is one of my favorite bourbon distillers, period. Their Whiskey Rose series is so good. And the even their standard stuff, you're not going to go wrong. I'm sure it's a nice pick. Their rye, I don't know, but maybe. I can't say enough. I can't say much about it. I haven't had too many. Ben Demeter, still need to get and try the rare breed, he says. Oh, who makes that? Wild Turkey. Yeah, you do. If you like the Wild Turkey style, those are about $40 here in the U.S. It's crazy how cheap they are. That's always been one of those bourbons that, for whatever reason, the value is really there. I mean, it is Wild Turkey 101 just amped up, which is already an amped up bourbon. If you like that style, Wild Turkey's kind of on the sweeter side. I get more of that cotton candy note, which I always notice in turkey stuff. I like rare breed quite a bit. Definitely a good value pickup. I did know that shipped to Ontario. Friends aren't happy about that. Always a pleasure to attend your live. Yeah, man. It's always great to have you here, man. Glad to hear you're doing well, brother. Angel's Envy is on every shelf in Canada gathering dust. Yeah. What do they charge for a bottle of Angel's Envy up in Canada? Just curious. Regular Angel's Envy. That's absolutely right. It is decent quality. There's no, I don't think, I wouldn't trust anybody that tells you that it's bad whiskey. It's not. It's not something I chase. This is the second bottle of Angel's Envy I bought in a decade. And I bought this just on a whim today because it was a store pick. If this would have been just the regular cast strength release, it would have probably been like $120. There's no way I would have touched it. Yeah, it is overpriced. But everything in bourbon these days is starting to be the same way. So, this is a 4 out of 5 bourbon right here. This private select Angel's Envy. This is 55% ABV. It's killing it. The only, mild criticisms, like I said, a little bit too dry for me. That's more of a preference than anything. I do think that they do, so to toot their horn for a second, the phenomenal job of not letting the finish take away from the bourbon. The finish really complements this. There are whiskeys where the finish just completely dominates, or it's not married together at all in any way that's worth mentioning. Not the case with this. It's really nice. Just overpriced. Cool Runnings is in the house. What's up? Oh, Cooler Running. Coolest Running. How about that? Hey guys, overpriced booze. Who would have thought? What up, Toro? I knew you'd have an opinion on that. I've heard about this overpriced booze stuff, haven't you? It's out there in the world. We got to look out for it. Oh, wait. Is it almost everything? Everything not named Ben Romick, it seems. Ontario, it's $80 Canadian for Angels Envy. Let me just see what that is. So US dollar to I know that your money is a less value. I don't mean, you know what I mean. It's $1.35, right? So a US dollar is worth $1.35 to everyone. So if it's 80 Canadian, that puts it at 60 USD. Okay, a little bit overpriced for the US, but not extremely, maybe $10 more. So 15, 20% more. And that's, of course, it's an imported alcohol. So maybe not the worst. $59 USD. I don't know if you can get better. Still don't think it's worth buying. Save your money. However, unless you find this one at $59 USD, a private select that's at or a higher ABV. This higher ABV one is great. In fact, I'm going to pour some more of it right now. This is a 4 out of 5 bourbon. There's no doubt in my mind. I want to put it at I wouldn't, if I do a full review, it's going to drop to at least a 3.75 just because they overcharge because of their name way too much. But look at the color of that. And I don't like over oaked, heavily aged bourbons for the most part. This certainly is not heavily aged. There's not even an age statement on it. But I'll tell you right now, what you're getting here, this 55% is a well crafted. There's got to be enough age. Things are rounded off pretty nice. Even at 55%, this doesn't drink like no cask strength whiskey. It's really remarkably well done, precisely well done. And they charge you a premium for it. I think in a blind, this would do really well with a lot of bourbon heads who might poo-poo it beforehand. I really do. That surge of graham cracker. I'm telling you, this has got levels to it. This has got character. It's a nice bourbon. I'm just not sure. Again, at $70 in a time where bourbon was priced fairly, that would be fine. But this present day, $90 for this, probably more in some places to get it similar. It's just too much. To get me to pay $100 for a bourbon is crazy. The last time I bought a bourbon that was close to this, it's back there. Booker's, what batch was that? The 2001, the first one from 2001. I bought that as a moving present when I moved here to Chicago. That's a hell of a bourbon, but I'll tell you, that was expensive. That was like, I bought that in Philadelphia. That was like $100, I think. It was the, what is the name of that? Booker's 2021 batches. It is the, well, not that you guys, I mean, I'm going down a rabbit hole a little bit with this. It is the Donahoe's batch. Really good stuff. But it was even more pricey than this. I would still say yes to ECVP at that price. I know that's a lot, but for an import, I mean, it's an imported bourbon. The quality is there. Yeah, it's not a rational price. But given what I would have expected you to say that it was like 135 pounds or more. 100, yeah, you're just not gonna. It's just not gonna get better than that unless you can find somewhere in the U.S. that'll ship to you, and then you got to buy like 5 bottles to make the economics work. But it's so good, and quite frankly, if you're gonna buy a bourbon at an imported price, at an inflated price, I mean, ECBP is probably the way to do it. I know last year's batches weren't world beaters, but beggars can't be choosers, and also not being a world beater ECBP also still means that it's a great bourbon, because there's never been a bad ECBP. There's just better, right? So look, it's like saying, like, would I pay another $30, $40 for a bottle of single malt that I can't get in the US? Yeah. If I wanted it enough and it was quality, yeah. So yeah, I would do that with ECBP. Mm-hmm. Oh, that's a great price. That's almost parity. Those are $60 US. And those are awesome, by the way. Jack Daniel's single barrel proof, not the single barrel select, barrel proof. Those are worth it 100% of the time. You're not going to necessarily get the nuance and complexity of the ECBPs, but fuck, for 70 pounds, that's like, what is that in US dollars? That's probably like $77. So it's like $10 more than most places are selling it in the US. Great stuff. Absolutely buy it. No hesitation. Only had 2 samples of ECBP. I get it yeah, it's really good. Gotta go for now. We'll see you soon. Wishing you a really happy birthday. Yeah, thanks, man. Appreciate that, brother. It was great to catch up with you, man. Our boy Mahir over in India. It's been a minute since he could join, so I'm glad we got to have some time with you, man. Take care. Yeah, Jack Daniel's single barrel bourbon is awesome. I have an old Elijah Craig 12 before they went to the small batch. In fact, I might actually even have it. Do I have it out here? Oh, I don't. It's buried away somewhere, but I do have an old. I'll get that out one of these days. Is it May? Let me take a quick look. Is it here? Let's see. No, unfortunately not. I do have a. I'll have to bust that out sometime. I've never drank it. I drank many bottles of it when it was the norm, but I still have one unopened. Yeah, that's honestly not that far off from what you get from the U.S. now. I mean, Booker's is what it is. It's personally, I think the Knob Creek. I mean, it's all from the same place. I think the Knob Creek single barrel is probably will get you as close to Booker's as you want to be, and the price is like halved. But Booker's, they had a couple of years where it was a little lean, but now I feel like they're starting to come back with some really quality stuff. I just don't. They're all from Jim Beam, for folks who don't know. But yeah, it's a dime a dozen when I buy a Booker's. In fact, fuck it. Why don't we do this? Yeah, let's go visit this. Why don't we take this moment to revisit a bottle of Booker's? Good call, Welsh Choro, even though you didn't call it. So this is a Booker's bottle. Look, flashy presentation aside, it's good bourbon for the most part, but don't be fooled by thinking this is like world beater stuff always, because it's not. This is the 2001-01, 62.65%, 6 years, 11 months. So it actually, they were getting down to like 6 years, 7 months with some of those bottles. And now I see they're kind of going back up as they got more popular. This used to be glass too. Now it's plastic, like way back in the day. I have one from 2015, which I don't have up there, but yeah, let's give this a try. Let me go grab another glass real quick, and then we'll give it a try. right, here we go. So, got a clean glass. Let's do some Bookers. Color's about the same. This Booker's is, of course, 7.5% more, and has a age on it. This was a nice batch. Let me just pour a little bit of this in here. It doesn't pour quite as dark, but again, color doesn't matter. Now, here in the U.S., you cannot. It is by law with bourbon that you cannot add any color to it, but you can chill filter. Booker's is not chill filtered. They used to proclaim it in big. They used to be real loud about it. It doesn't say so much on here. Let's see. Of course, they give you this little card with the most minute writing on it about the story behind the batch. 16% came from second floor, 9th story age. Tells you all this stuff from where it comes from in the place. People might find that interesting. Doesn't say anything about non-chill filtration, though. But Booker's, I can almost guarantee you, is not chill filtered. It comes right from the... It basically comes straight from the barrel. Oh, ha! It says it on here. Uncut and unfiltered. Well, there you go. All right. Here we go. Booker's 2021 batch 1 Donahoe's batch. Aggressive. A lot of depth. Peppery. Fresh cut wood. It's still hitting on all the right cylinders. It's got that little peanut note you tend to get off Jim Beam products. What I'm really looking for here is if I can tell it has more swells of flavor or more prolonged finish than this Angel's Envy. It'll help me get a sense of the age of this Angel's Envy. And yeah, it does. This has got a longer finish, a richer finish. Really good. A bit dry, a bit like 2 notes. It's like vanilla cola. It's like a vanilla cola, well, 3 notes. Vanilla cola chocolate all the way through on the back end of this. But the event is huge. The finish on this is just exponentially better than this Angel's Envy. And so price-wise here in the U.S., this was about $95 to $100. This was $90. Give me the Bookers. You are paying a premium for Angel's Envy's port finishes and their, the panache that they think they have. But yeah, the Bookers in most cases maybe is going to be $10 more, and I would probably go with it if you're just looking for like the depth and complexity of a really good bourbon. I mean, this is going to do it for you. Let's see. None of these have finishes, I know that, but basically it's uncut Knob Creek. So Jim Beam, it's Jim Beam, and then there's Knob Creek, and then there's Baker's, which is in the middle of their small batch range. Knob Creek is the biggest of their small batch range, and then that, and then Booker's. And to be honest with you, this Booker's kicks ass. Take care. Do your thing. Totally agree. Welsh Toro. Can get my hands on Knob Creek. Good stuff over here anyway. I have a bottle in the bunker. Top bourbon, scarce in the UK these days. Yeah, Welsh Toro, you should, if you get a second, just shoot me an email so we can connect at malt.muser@gmail. Again, that's malt.muser@gmail. I would love to, I don't know if you're on the Patreons or not, but if you're, regardless, I would like to send you some bourbon samples if you're interested. I am not a huge bourbon head, but I got a lot. I got a substantial amount of bourbons. I'd love to send you some if you're interested. So yeah, just connect with me there. That'd be cool if you're interested. Cooler Running, where are you at, by the way? Are you in Canada? Oop. Just 1 second, Joe. All right. So we're doing Bookers. We're doing... That's the Angel's Envy. Here's the thing. The Angel's Envy, on the palate initially, they're both kind of the same in terms of their viscosity. But the Booker's hangs on a lot longer. And I think that's what you want. Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I would go 4 out of 5 on this Angel's Envy, but probably knock it to 3.75 because of the cost. This Booker's, despite the cost, this batch in particular, this is a 4.25 out of 5 kind of bourbon for me. I mean, this is 91, 92 for sure. Probably a 92. It's that good. This is one of the better batches that I think I honestly can say I've had. Which is saying something because they've had, not a non-trivial amount of different releases. I think they're doing 3, if not 4 a year, and they've been doing this for a decade. This one, however, much more impressive than I expected. And I think is just kind of a testament to they used to, back in the day, the Booker's releases were 7 years plus. Then they start getting into 6.5, 6.25 a year. Don't quote me on that, but they were younger. They were definitely younger than 7. And then I think people were, and then the prices were going up. These used to be $60 a bottle. It seems like they're, this one's got a little bit more age on it. It is a year old. This is from the 6 years, 12 months, 4 days. I mean, it's basically a 7-year, which is, I think, a good standard. Knob Creek did have some issues. They had to put their regular Knob Creek bourbon at NAS for a while. They couldn't put the age statement on it anymore. That has changed. They're back to age statements. So I mean, got some weird, wonderful stuff I can say. Hey, that's awesome, dude. Yeah, and I do, and any samples I get from folks, I'll usually share on the live show and share my thoughts live. So that's super cool. Yeah, I'd love to send you some stuff, man. Again, I like I said, I don't have right. I don't have the latest bourbons. I'm not a bourbon head or chasing bourbons really. Love it, but I'm more of a Scotch guy. But I definitely have some stuff I could share with you, and that I think you'd appreciate, especially given the scarcity that you're talking about. So yeah, would love to do it, man. Let's connect. Okay. I just like the Bookers more, even though. This just the Angel's Envy doesn't have as long of a finish, which makes me just think it's maybe a year or two younger. But a stellar bourbon. It's still a stellar bourbon. It really is. I feel like it's the way that the port wine is not overtaking this bourbon at all, and is actually complementing it and giving it more of a more complexity, as opposed to just something else to pay attention to in lieu of everything else, is exactly what I like about it. I think a lot of the times with the finish, what you can run into is that the finish is so powerful that, like, you know, you're taken away from the spirit and you're just thinking about, wow, that is a huge Sauternes finish, or that is a huge, Oloroso finish. Wow, that PX is really showing up. And it kind of masks over the finish. And the finish is usually a time where you can really kind of tell about the age of a whiskey. Cask strength can mask the youth of a whiskey on the development, because more alcohol is more flavor. So if you're just hit with that and there's not a lot of heat, you could be thinking to yourself, you know, this is a really rich, well-aged whiskey. But if there's no age statement on it, you don't know how much it is. And a finish can kind of round off the rough edges that you might run into. You see this sometimes with Scotch. I'm thinking about, some of the younger independent bottlings of things like Kalila that I've had. Whereas the finish is married, integrated, and is not trying to steal away your attention. This is all about the bourbon all the way through. And the port wine is really complementing it. So I got to give them credit for that. I think this is it's just a well-crafted bourbon. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, personally, I like their style enough that, again, it's not something I've bought in a long time, but it's, I don't chase these down where I'm going to get every release every year or something like that. But I do like it. And if I'm at a bar, sometimes, in the US, this is like, you'll find they'll have a bottle of Booker's as like the top shelf bourbon, right? Like it's more ubiquitous than you would expect. And it doesn't really fail to deliver. The biggest issue with Booker's is always just the youthfulness and the heat. And if they do a good enough job where in the case of this batch in particular, where it's as masked and as rounded off as you're ever going to find it, it's good. I've had some batches that are not so much this way. And again, I am not a Booker's chaser for two reasons. Number one, I just don't think it's worth the money for 4 bottles a year. I would rather go ECBP. I think ECBP is more interesting. And secondly, I mean, ECBP is more interesting in the aggregate, right? Maybe not in individual bottles. Maybe there's a Booker's bottle that comes out that's better, but you know what I'm saying. But the thing about like chasing it is just that the price is too much for what you're getting. I as much as I'm not interested in like hyper aged bourbons really, and my limited experience has made me that way, I do think that, picking up one of these every once in a while, like you're not gonna be disappointed. And I've never been disappointed with a Booker's. I think the last Booker's that I did a review of, and I haven't even done a review of this. I did a review of the 2018-01 Kathleen's batch, which I thought was really good. I liked that a lot. But I think I might have drank it. Yeah, I killed that one pretty quick. And then I had not bought another bottle of Booker's until this. This is, again, the 2021-01 Donahue's batch. This is almost 2 years old now. Crazy to think about. I'm happy with it. And I think for the price, all things considered, I would have taken this over the Angel's Envy. But this Angel's Envy is really good. $10 more could be the Booker's. Anywho, James Chang's in the house. What up, man? How's it going? What's up out in LA? So many as whiskey can have the Angus spirit. in it with a dribble of old stuff to get it. Yeah. That's this comment should just be like framed above all our every whiskey head's home bar. Yeah, absolutely true. Absolutely true. Yeah. Man. I'm really enjoying both of these. And then I also have this really great Oktoberfest beer, courtesy of our friends over at, well, it's not courtesy of them. They didn't give it to me. I did buy it from our friend. I want to say courtesy because it's that good. It's one of the better Oktoberfest beers I've ever had. It's from Phase 3 here in Chicago. Yeah, I can't complain about that. I do think I'm going to have another dram. I don't want to get it's too early to get too far into the boogers. If we get too far into the boogers now, I mean, I might as well just go take a nap for the next 6 hours. As I take the cork off. Yeah. You know what? I'm going to bring out another bourbon because we're kind of doing a bourbon thing here. Let me grab it a bourbon. And where is that? Ah, there it is. It's a little dusty. So what I got here, this will be a good one to kind of put in comparison with these. This is a Woodford Reserve, one of the more pretentious bourbon brands in my opinion. But this is a 2019 batch proof, 61.6. So I guess we're just doing this. I have been to Jim Beam. I have been to Woodford Reserve. And let me tell you, Woodford Reserve is exactly what you think. Rolling hills, white buildings, horses running wild. It's just like the most pretentious place. And their gift shop, just like sadly most of the gift shops on the Bourbon Trail, you are not going to find a really good stuff. It's mostly their regular old, the regular old releases. However, Wild Turkey, they did have a release of, they had a barrel pick. In fact, I have it. Where is that thing? Ah, there it is. I got their Kentucky Spirit, their single barrel, but it's a pick from Eddie Russell. I paid the extra $20 for that. I've not opened it yet. It's a little bit of a memento. But again, Jim Beam had similar stuff. Oh, you can get a Knob Creek Rye, pick here and there, whatever. If you do the Bourbon Trail, I highly recommend it. First of all, it's a lot of fun. But do not expect that you're going to come into rare bottles because you're not. And the shops aren't much better. My brother and I drove all around Louisville in the rain on the off chance we would come into something interesting. Forget it. Anyways, so Woodford Reserve was probably one of my least favorite of the places I visited on the Bourbon Trail. That said, this is their batch proof from 2019. And to be completely honest with you, it's a freaking cracker of a whiskey. And it's been a while since I've had it, so we might as well have it now. Birthday weekend's coming. Birthday weekend's here. So why not drink the best bourbon I have? Which is Booker's and this, and then I have some old Bellamides and things. I have more ECBPs than you can shake a stick at. The bourbons are getting pretty low. And this is because I haven't been buying any. I think this year I bought the Vantage, the Barrel Vantage, and I bought this Angel's Envy just today, and that's it. So I'm a one bottle of Booker's at a time guy. Yeah. Just killed my C. Oh, yeah. CU918. That was a good one. Okay. From Wales. My wife is Spanish. Love that country. And we have a small place there. I live and work in England. Okay. Well, there you go. He's living up to his brand. He's not Spanish Toro. Wow. I know. That was an intentional joke. Okay. So let me get into what I was going to say here. So now this is the 2019 blah, blah, blah. They have other releases that they do each year annually of their batch proof, batch strength, whatever you want to call it. This one, oh, by the way, they're at inflated ass prices. This is like, I think these come out nowadays at like $130 for a non-age statement batch proof Woodford. Again, you want to talk about pretension? And their gift shop had nothing but their regular Woodfords and their like Kentucky Derby bottles. But we don't need to get into all that. This one I found magically for like $100, and I bought it because, you know, it wasn't at Woodford. It was at a third-party website. But to buy these now, these are going to be higher than the Angels Envy picks or the Bookers. This is probably $30 more of a bourbon. And their stuff is notoriously boring. Let's try the 2019. I don't know that it can be an indicator of what to expect in their latest batches, but it has that very Woodford character. Low, like, it's not very spicy, but it's not a weeder. It's a high corn, just elegant, refined, sweet bourbon. Not a lot of, no edginess, no attitude. This is a pedigree bourbon by their branding, and it definitely smells that way, even at batch proof, which, again, I'm not hating. I'm just saying this is what they are. Here we go. I mean, just look at the bottle, right? Master's Collection. Look at this, right? Compared to Booker's, working class, bourgeoisie. Oh, but it's so good. It does everything you want. Man, the fruit notes are great. Apple, cinnamon, cider notes are huge. And they're mingling really well with the graham cracker, with the like mid oak notes. Not too dark, not too sharp. Wow, just a really nice experience. These are not worth $130. But it is a really nice pour to have when you can. And admittedly, I'm not that upset about buying this at $100, despite that they're just like the bougiest, or they present themselves as so bougie. 123.2. Wow, this vanilla cream note, this hazelnut thing going through the back end of this is just so nice. It's I wish I could hate on this whiskey more, but I can't. It's that good. I am not a big fan of wheated bourbons. I find that they're usually sacrificing complexity in favor of quote unquote smoothness. This one has a smoothness, has a agreeability, a richness without complexity in the spicy sense, that the subtleties do show up quite a bit, and it is really nice. I don't think this is worth the price. I mean, this is on the higher end price range of what even barrel proof bourbons cost these days. This is so not worth your money, but this 2019 is really quite good. Hey, what's up, D-Pass? You're always at work, bro. You work at 8 o'clock at night. You work in the afternoon. What do you do for a living? I'm not really asking, but it's great to have you in the house, Donner. Tim and I have been swapping samples for some time now, and I think it's probably overdue that we do some again. I'll shoot you an email. I think I have some stuff to share with you, and I'm sure you do too. We're heading into that fall season, so all these new whiskeys have been coming out, so on and so forth. Okay, so out of these three, I mean, what do we really think between the three? I mean, the Booker's is the best. This is somehow become a comparison thing. You're going to spend $100 on a bourbon. I would take the Booker's over the Angel's Envy Private Select, even though I really like this Private Select. And Booker's can vary. I think I would still roll the dice on the Booker's. Both of them are better than spending another $30 to $40 on a barrel-proof Woodford Reserve. But the barrel-proof Woodford Reserve is really good. And also, God, the slight... This bourbon from Woodford tastes like when you walk into your local Java house, when you walk into the coffee shop. That smell in the air, imagine that just being a subtle flavor, and that's what you get here in this Woodford Reserve. It's just amazing. But not worth the price compared to the other ones, no doubt. And these are really these are the top shelf bourbons. Obviously, I bought this one today, the Angel's Envy Private Barrel, 55% ABV. I've had the Booker's. I had the Woodford. I mean, I have an old Bellamy 10-year-old single barrel. I got some old, older Four Roses, single barrels, and some ECVPs. But this is probably what I would say is the creme de la creme of my bourbon collection. And what a great way to kick off a birthday weekend. I have not had the opportunity to drink some of these in a while because I just drink when I want to have a whiskey. My palate and my spirit just wants scotch. I want to drink scotch. Bourbon is a very unique moment when I really crave bourbon. And today when I went to Vinny's to get some beer, that's what happened. And that's why I bought this. I was like, I just want a really rich, sort of fruity, sort of decadent bourbon. And then, oh, look, they have a barrel pick version of Angel's Envy, and I'm going to buy it. So that's what I did. But it's not normally my go-to. I'm usually a single malt guy. Well, Toro, I like Water 12. That's a silly, silly price. You know how much those go for on secondary market here? Like 200 USD. I think I like bourbon more now than scotch, says James Chang. Wow, that's shots fired, man. I wouldn't have expected that. Hey, Vancouver's in the house. What up, Indy? What you doing, man? What? Explain yourself, James Chang. Really? I'm not trying to, be an alpha male guy here, but what I do think that does demand explanation. Because to me, at the end of the day, why drink bourbon when you can drink scotch has usually been my MO. And look, Scotch just has a, again, we were talking about earlier, just the boundaries of flavor experience. Scotch is here, bourbon's like there. Yeah. Oh no, go through the phase. Yeah. Go through the phase. I know what you mean. I actually really do know what you mean by that. You know, sometimes you're like, you know what? Maybe I actually just, I had a bourbon the other day and it was a cheap bourbon and it just tasted so good. And it's better than 90% of the scotches. It's palate fatigue, right? You get the palate fatigue and then you get the I don't know what you want to call it, just the when something that you haven't had in a while touches your palate, it's like it reinvigorates the excitement of it that you had it initially. I find it quickly dies down, but it does, at least temporarily. I just have a hard time. I mean, all in all, I do find myself kind of Blanton's is better than 90% of the scotches out there. The only person that could send this to me that I'm not going to react to it is Indy, because Indy's hilarious. But yeah, if you act, I mean, no, I'm not going to bite. That's funny. And if you've been a fan of the channel long enough, you know, like that's just, if you've had enough whiskey in your life, you know why that's funny. If you haven't, though, we can talk about it. All right. So here we are at closing in on. I love the new startup, Bird Distillery. Yeah, I've not had any of their stuff yet. There's such a good ex-bourbon cast. Might be a hybrid Scotch bourbon spirit. Interesting. Do they, I mean, is that all malt? Just out of curiosity, I'm not trying to be like, gotcha. I'm just actually curious if it's all malt or not. I've not had anything from them yet, but I see them there, and they do have bottles here in the US. So, just curious. All right. You can buy it. No. Yes. Yeah. The single barrel, the straight from the barrel Blanton's is awesome. And they used to not sell it in the US for some reason. And you still really can't find it most places, and it's at an inflated price, but like it's not worth more than $100 in my opinion compared to any of these other two that we've just had. Give me a break. The difference between the Blantons, even the straight from the barrel, which I think is the best thing that they have, and this Booker's is, maybe I'd go 125, 150 for the Blantons, but anything more than that in the US, you'd be out of your mind. Muser, I watched Yogunkaram today and had a dram of it, and then Aaron and then in Decent Bourbon, I was thinking hard about if I have been converted to bourbon. Nice, man. I'll be interested to hear what you have to say about this potential conversion you've had. I generally have found that, well, I crave bourbon at times because I want dessert. And bourbon to me is by and large a dessert dram. It is overly sweet. It is overly rich. It is simpler on average. It has its place. It has its place for sure. But if you asked me like what whiskey I want to drink, 90% of the time it's going to be a single malt. The complexity, the nuance, even the simplicity at times. Glencaddam 10 is not an example of simplicity. It was, as I said in my review, and if folks haven't seen it, they should go check it out. It's just a fantastic single malt at a really, really affordable price. I don't enjoy bourbon the way I do Scotch, and the reason I don't is because Scotch has more nuance, and I think the nuance is interesting to me. If we're gonna just like slug whiskey, it's a horse apiece, really. And I know that was a very Midwest thing to say, but it's like a horse apiece. If we're gonna like sit down, so like I can do a bourbon night. I'm doing a bourbon show right now, basically. But the proof is in the potency, right? I mean, if you look behind me, I have this shelf, and then wait, I gotta get rid of it. Let me see if I can do this on the camera. Okay, there's that shelf, and there's that. No, yeah, there's that shelf, and that shelf that are bourbon rye collection. Scotch, and then that's Irish up here, but everything else is Scotch, other than the Catalans. So like, it just kind of like, for me, it shows up in what I spend my money on, and generally speaking, I think. I don't know if there's any controversy to what I'm about to say, but if there is, it's an argument I'm willing to have. I think Scotch is a more dynamic, interesting malt. And I think that comes from the fact that malted barley, by and large, is a spirit or is a grain that is more neutral. It has its own elemental flavor, no doubt, but it is not as potent as corn. And corn is sweet. And therefore, you are not going to get a bourbon that is not loaded with sweetness. Whereas with the rules around bourbon, just dictate that. Whereas with Scotch, I think barley opens itself up to more influences and more harmony with other flavors. That, along with the cold temperature aging, colder climate aging, I should say, on that's just, to me, is where the difference is. I'm not one of these people that judges bourbon because of the fact that it's like become this fad and there's 1,000 bourbon channels out there and so on and so forth. That's not it. What it is for me is just, again, it's proof by potency, and potency is, what do I spend my money on? I don't just buy whiskey so I can talk about it with y'all, I buy it so I can enjoy it. And again, other than those ones down here, just not much of a bourbon head. And again, I've explained, like, I think that, like, but it doesn't mean that it doesn't have a place. Just like gin has a place, just like a tequila has a place, just like everything has a place. Yeah. So, James Chang, I'm going to be really interested to hear where this goes for you. Maybe you do convert to the bourbon, and it'll be fun to explore. And I definitely have some rums to recommend if you become a much more of a bourbon acolyte than a Scotch acolyte. Because if you haven't had them already, I'd be happy to send you some samples. I do the sweet tooth, and maybe it's richer, bolder, denser, general flavor profile. Yeah. No, yeah, totally. Yeah, I mean, again, it's not a character indictment or anything. It's just it's a matter of preference, and it'll be interesting to hear where it goes. And I have some things to send you if that's the route it goes. I have some things to send you generally, but sure, I love bourbon, but it's a bit of a one-trick pony. The Scotch equivalent would be like sherry style only. Scotch is more. Yeah, I mean, I think that's true. I just think that like there are. Well, let me rephrase. I think that's uncontroversially true, and that's like my talking point. If ever any like braggadocious bourbon head tries to tell me, "Oh, you drink Scotch, man. You should try bourbon, man. Like, haven't you had Weller? Haven't you had Blandons? Haven't you had, whatever the flavor of the week is?" That's one of the many things that I would say. James Chang, I don't think is that. I think he's just, he's having his moment. And again, I am not going to tell people or evangelize about it, but I go through the motions. I'm having a bourbon moment today, right? I went to the store today. I didn't buy the Scotch, I bought a bourbon. I wanted a fucking bourbon. I wanted a serious bourbon. I wanted a rich bourbon. I bought one and it hit all the marks. Overpaid for it, but it did. But yeah, generally speaking, it's just not, 9 times out of 10, you're going to find me with single malt Scotch whiskey in this Glencairn glass, not bourbon. I agree that Scotch is softer and more complex and softer. Yeah. What's up? You're back. And there's Indy. I mean, you could do worse than bourbon and drink gin. I don't know. I like gin. Barrel-aged gin is really good, man. I think you could do worse than both and drink brandy. Or just vodka. Vodka. Come on. You can't polish a turd. Who drinks vodka? Everything is vodka. It's just flavored vodka. Whiskey's flavored vodka. Gin's flavored vodka. So on and so forth. That's my argument. Anyways, yeah, James, let me know how it goes, man. This is exciting. I hope you'll still hang out, even though I do mostly Scotch. But as I was saying at the beginning of the show, I'm thinking about changing my format in 2023. I'm thinking that instead of doing a weekly Tuesday show, I'm going to do like a bi-weekly and then use the extra time to just go random lives like I'm doing today. Because I kind of feel like these are as fun, if not more, and it doesn't pigeonhole me into a time where, like, especially our friends like Welsh Toro and Mahir and other people who've showed up here who are in a different part of the world than Chicago are able to like come at an hour and hang out. And I feel like, I owe that to, I want to hang out with as many subscribers as I can. And I feel like that might be the best way to do it. So I might flip the script a little bit here, in 2023. And I feel like it's the best way to do it. It's the best for me. I mean, obviously I'm just going to do what I want, but I also don't take it lightly, like the way it's going to impact folks who have been hanging out for a long time. So, is Warehouse 1 worth 120 USD? That's the Lafroig? Here's my I got to ask you a follow-up question. Because this is Heisenberg uncertainty principle here. How much is the 10 cat strength by you? And can you get it? Let me know. Right. You do you, boo-boo. I might have missed something. ML Muser. Stop crying. This Malt Muser fanboy will leave. Oh, I'm not crying. Did it look like I was crying? I'm not crying at all. Too funny. He says yes. Oh man, the gin thing went viral in the UK last few years. The best gins. That's true. 10 cast strength is 130 USD. Okay, so he said The warehouse one is 120. The cash. If that's the world you're living in, then yes, it's worth 120 USD. It's not as good as the 10 cast strength, in my opinion. If you enjoy the 10 cast strength, has more complexity, nuance, and kind of intriguingness than the warehouse one. What the warehouse one brings is shock of the new, well done, all bourbon cask, salinity. That's what I would say. What up? Oh, Jesus. Sounds a bit too pricey for me. I don't know. That's Canada. Our friend Indy's in Canada, so context. Fair enough. Fair enough. Thank you, Ben. Oh man, batch 13 is so good. Batch 14 sucks. Well, it doesn't suck. It's just not nearly as good. If you've been buying batches of that, you'll be disappointed. Batch 13 is great. And I mean great objectively outside of, any claims. Oh no. Yeah. Our friend Indy comes to us from Vancouver, not Vancouver, Washington, Vancouver, British Columbia, which is why those prices seem, that's why those prices seem what they are. Okay, friends. I know we got 14 folks in, and it's been real, but it is only 3:12 in the afternoon here in Chicago. It is birthday weekend. I may come back on later, but I gotta go get myself some lunch, y'all. And since I live in a huge city, I got a bevy of options right outside my doorstep, and I'm gonna go figure out which ones I want. I do want to say thanks again for folks hanging out, and to our friend, oh my God, Mr. Gerbic, who joined on Patreon for my birthday, which is awesome. I really appreciate that. If you're interested, patreon.com, Malt Muser Whiskey. And other than that, I'm going to enjoy the rest of this bourbon, and then I'm going to go get myself some food, and maybe I'll see y'all later. If not, have a wonderful weekend, y'all. Appreciate everybody. You guys kick ass. Thank you, sir. Toro, Ben, see you in the comments. Slange.